If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Blah, blah, blah.
Sending out good vibes.
Blah, blah, blah.
Good vibes.
Blah,
Good vibes.
blah, blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
From a human anthropomorphic perspective, how do we contend with the idea of there being other beings, intelligent beings in the universe, and how does that impact how we understand our Christian beliefs?
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Groundswell Show. We are going to be chatting with Joel Parkyn a little bit later about exotheology, all sorts of cool, fun stuff like that. And we're going to throw we did a little YouTube. We did it was probably the first time, aside from some of the Rockfin stuff we've done a YouTube that was like a real YouTube. We had some videos playing and we had some scroll and stuff in the background, showing some stuff. So we did that, of course, because we have people from all over the country sending us videos and pictures from Americans literally from coast to coast involved in different versions of the movement that seems to have overtaken the country right now. That started out, of course, as the Freedom Convoy, which, like I was saying to Graham off air, regardless of what you think of that or where it started, I kind of think it's an organic thing personally. But even if it's not, it's become an organic thing. And I can attest to that due to the fact that I have family members that are participating in the convoy, not in the main convoy in Ottawa, but in some of the other convoys that they're not even telling you guys about. Like there's currently the city of Edmonton, Alberta is in complete gridlock with the convoy. At least it was yesterday. I haven't checked in on it again yet today. The Alberta-Coots border crossing into Sweetgrass, Montana is bunged up on both sides with hundreds of trucks and getting pretty well to the point that the local RCMP had to issue a travel advisory saying not to go that way because it's fucked. I got word that they have set up a stage and are bringing in entertainment last night. So going to be hard to get those guys out of there.
Tables and chairs and goods and people are donating goods and
the
food
beauty is the weather here is great, right? I feel bad for those fuckers in Ottawa. Here, the weather's not bad. It's like it's supposed to snow, but up till now, it's been like 0 degrees. And like Graham said, people are feeding these guys. You see pictures all the way. People are just handing the trucks sack lunches as they drive by. We got the Hutterites on board feeding people, and it's something else. And it really is truly a coast to coast thing. I think we got our buddy in Victoria who said there was 10,000 people at that one yesterday that he attended. He actually made the paper with his bubbles. Shout out to Daz. And of course, our friend of the show, Brady, was at the Calgary one, and there was 10,000 strong there as well. And we have several. Shout out to Kyle and Innerlad and who else? Lou. Lou is in Ottawa right now. So I think there's 4 or 5 Americans in Ottawa sending pictures, having a time, partying it up. So yeah, and then there was a Saskatchewan convoy to Regina yesterday. I seen some pictures of that. My sister was in the convoy down by the Emerson border, which was completely shut down. And the reason I bring that up is because the Canadian media is not talking about that at all. I mean, if I want to know about the Edmonton convoy, I literally have to go to Twitter and type Edmonton convoy into it so that I can see the people that are at the event sending pictures and stuff from it. Because, we've got what is close to a mainstream media blackout on most of the stuff as you can. They have kind of started to turn the tide a little bit on the Ottawa one because it's sort of hard to ignore. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks here in Canada.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I think it's not really funded or organized from external sources. Well, for one thing, it felt organic from the beginning.
And I donated. So, I mean, and I've been, I'm a registered Indian, not a white supremacist, not a white nationalist. I don't even know if I'm a nationalist for any country. But I gave them some of my money because I can't go to Ottawa. So that's what I can't do.
The media's got to stop lying. I mean, it literally is just lying and making stuff up. And I mean, we'll see if they get infiltrated. And there's some people sort of chasing around some Antifa-looking types there. We'll see what happens. But I mean, obviously, they're going to have their own people there to cause problems, take some pictures, get some headlines. The whole fucking. But the truckers in this whole rally have a plan to deal with those people. To not let that fucking get out of control. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm starting to hear chats of because they have so much funding, that like once they get what they want in Ottawa, they're heading to Quebec because Quebec has the worst restrictions in Canada. So I don't know where they'll go after that. I would assume Toronto, but it seems like something the governments have got to start paying attention to. When media from all over the world are paying attention to it, it gets harder to ignore. I mean, that's a funny thing. I mean, the headlines out of the UK
this is getting spread through like small means, right? It's people spreading word amongst themselves. I mean, there's sure there's some YouTube streams going on, but there's not a ton of traffic there. But it's not through me. I don't even think people are doing it through Facebook. But I mean, if you have to go onto Twitter, like, do you think Twitter will shut this down eventually?
I don't think they can. I mean, you can see them actively. People. Yesterday, they had I Stand with Trudeau trending with like 6,000 tweets, and then you can't even see the other ones that have hundreds and hundreds of thousands. But they pop up once in a while because it seems like they just can't. It's too big to keep a lid on.
And like you said, it's all over the world now too. It seems like people are,
Yeah, and I can't speak to any of the other ones. So I only know people that are actively participating in this one. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, I feel like right now Trudeau's got to be considering resigning. I mean, it's got to be weird to have the entire country, hey, want you out, I would just like resign and disappear.
There's a whole. I have friends that are still Trudeau fans.
Oh yeah, Trudeau. But I mean, it's enough.
They like the mandates. They like the socialism. They like Trudeau.
It's enough to be the most hated prime minister in history.
Yeah, it does show you that the elections are fucked too, right? I mean, he's getting in and he's got 60-70% dead against him.
Well, I think, man, I don't know. Maybe some stuff has shifted since the election, or.
Oh, yeah, of course. People are waking up, man. The narrative is falling apart. It's just how long they can hold on to it.
How long ago was the election? 5 months? 4 months?
Yeah. Scott Moe from Saskatchewan came out and sort of wrote a letter. I think it's an official letter. I mean, I haven't seen it on his website. I just got a copy from a trusted friend. But, and he wants to back off all the mandates too, right? He says they've run their course. So
I've seen it on his thing.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so he seems like he's going to be the first guy to back off, and I think that's because he sees a political opportunity here. He sees the winds, that the political winds have shifted, and probably sees a unique opportunity to maybe advance his career, to be perfectly honest. Probably what it's about. But if you're paying attention, it's pretty hard to ignore when the country's, as rallied up as the next best thing to this. Well, not the next best thing because it was bigger. But this would probably be the next best thing to Terry Fox in Canadian history.
Oh, this is way, way bigger than that. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think it's bigger than Terry Fox.
But that had all the full mainstream support and everything,
It's not bigger
right?
than Terry Fox. That's
you don't think so?
No, if you go back and look at the pictures then when Terry Fox ran by, people were going out running with them. And
but this is everybody. But this is like everybody going into Ottawa.
It's pretty. I don't think
like people would follow him for legs.
My kids still do a Terry Fox run, bro. I think it'd be extremely hubristic.
I'm not saying it wasn't big. I just think
this is
totally
bigger than
different.
Terry Fox. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
Terry Fox and probably coming home from the first 2 world wars are the only thing that were comparison. And those are different because those are positive things. This has a positive spin. I mean, this is a positive spin, but it's against things. This is the first time we've ever been rallied up enough against something. We're pretty
But
hard to get riled up.
You can see the difference between the live footage from Ottawa, and they're actually just dancing and partying and yelling and screaming in a positive way. They're happy. They're cheering for their freedom, as opposed to like what's happened in the States in the past with, you know, these other groups that are, you can tell that they're, you know, supported by the media, all these non-violent protests where they're burning shit down. I mean, there's the difference is night and day.
There's Americans are a little crazy too.
No, it's not that.
A little bit.
No, dude.
They're
all fucking.
If there was fucking 10 times as many of us, if there was 10 times as many of us, we'd have issues too. It just adds more crazies into the mix. It's like that one Nazi flag. If he's not a paid guy, if he's just because I mean, I'm sure there's crazy assholes.
What flag was it?
It was a swastika, straight up.
One flag?
I've seen one, yeah.
Huh.
And it could have totally been a plant, like you said.
I haven't seen one yet. I saw one. What's that American one? I can't remember the Dukes of Hazzard one. What's that?
Oh, the
one?
Confederate flag.
Oh, I saw one of those. That's it.
I've seen a few of those.
You know,
and a bunch of fuck Trudeaus. I mean, that's
all the fucking media needs to do is take one picture of one of those flags, and they've got their fucking headline. They've got their fear porn. It's disgusting. The lie.
I know. If you're so, what would you do if you're there? Would you go be like, get the fuck out of here, bro? It's a tough call, right? Do you approach the guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you know it's ruining everything, right? You know when you're there and you see that. You know it's bad news.
I know, but
even if it's a plant, you could go chase him out of there.
I know, but then
if it turns into a fight, you've ruined it worse. You've made it worse if it instigates to violence.
Plus, if you're about freedom, who do you say can't? You know, if you're about freedom, who decides who can be free or not? You can't, but
it's best to just shun.
Yeah, shun and ridicule. You know,
and ridicule.
Get out of here, buddy. Just
bring your buddies over there and point and laugh at
them.
Crazy Nazi. Anyway, I mean, there's tons of indigenous there doing indigenous dances, and they're not really showing you the Every Child Matters flags, which are extremely prevalent as well. The orange shirt movement is pretty prevalent there. I mean, if I could go there, I would. If I could jump on a plane and go down there for a couple days, that's such a long drive. The drive from here to Ottawa is about 44 hours, I think.
It's got to be as far from here to the border of Ontario, from the border of Ontario to Ottawa.
No, it's farther. It's farther from the border of Ontario to Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, Ontario is just so long when you have to cut down towards Ottawa there.
Let's see.
Unbelievable drive.
So it's going to tell me to go through the states, probably.
There looks like there's going to be. It looks like we were talking about how we can't really get a good number of people, but I would say there's 1 million people. If I was to guess it, I would say there's 100,000 trucks, 120,000 trucks. I heard that's what a couple of the different cops said, like the OPP and the RCMP. That's trucks coming from the south too, and the east, and the west, and the north. I mean, they're still arriving, and it's Sunday. This is recorded on Sunday, January 30th. They kind of started to arrive Friday night, Saturday morning. The main thing was yesterday, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they're sticking around, hopefully, until. I mean, the memes about Justin is hilarious. Missing on the milk carton, Justin Trudeau.
I think that he's got to resign, man. The party's got to want him out even at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, when does this not become a good political decision?
It's going to destroy the brand. He's destroying the Liberal Party brand right now.
Yeah.
And hiding isn't helping.
He'll be sacrificed.
Hiding isn't helping. He's going to be sacrificed. I mean, if this goes down the way it looks like it's going to go down, then it was worth losing the election.
Yeah.
Because this is just great.
Yeah.
It's great. And I mean, it's great already. Just when I read like some of the foreign headlines, like the UK, whatever, there's like Justin Trudeau forced into hiding from small fringe minority.
I know. And he wasn't though, right? I mean, that's the thing. And he had to say those things, right? Unacceptable views. Like, did you not see? That was after I was there on the, like 100 kilometers east of Calgary with hundreds of cars in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, here's the thing that I will say in his defense on the into hiding thing is that Canada does not have the means to keep the lid on it, is the problem. Whereas like you and I know it's positive. Right? It's chill.
Yeah.
The States has the National Guard and yada, yada, yada. If fucking Ottawa goes south, they can't stop it. They literally can't stop it because they got people. It's going to take fucking a day to get people in secret weapons. They got secret weapons. What kind of secret weapons? Give me an example.
Fucking audio shit, like directed energy stuff, audio.
The Canadian government has directed energy weapons,
dude. They got all kinds of shit in Ottawa there. If they
directed energy weapons, they're going to take out the whole city with directed energy weapons. They can't stop it. If that crowd goes nuts, they can't stop it.
They've got non-lethal weapons too.
But not to deploy against 100,000 people, even.
Of course they do.
You think so?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Don't kid yourself.
I'm not kidding myself. I think you're kidding yourself. Yeah, I think you're completely kidding yourself.
But
you've got a standing military of 20,000 that's stretched out across a country that's 9,000 kilometers wide.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you still have your point is still well taken about them. It's not the same as the state.
You don't even know if the cops will listen at this point.
That's true. I mean, honestly, they've been cooperating with this thing the whole time. It's been that positive and that peaceful,
right. And they're making statements that it's peaceful. The truckers
are working together, right?
So if it pops off, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't. I like it'd be. I don't think it would pop off, but I don't think they can stop it if it.
Well,
pops
they're going to try and pop it off themselves, right? We know that this is their playbook. Right? They're going to have these Antifa people out there making or whoever it is. Maybe it's not Antifa. Maybe it's their own paid truckers.
Probably George Soros is there. I think I've seen a picture of him looking out of a hotel room
bring
window.
Up his name, yeah.
He was looking out a hotel room window. He had the curtain just peered open. Yeah. Might have been a meme.
So interesting. Yeah, I know. And there's still some people that are skeptical about the whole thing, which is, I saw somebody like, it's a distraction. I'm like, oh, fuck. It's a distraction from what? This is thank God people are standing up finally. We've been talking about this for 2 years, how we don't know what to do. We don't know how to stand up. We don't know how to fight against it. This seems to be the best thing to do, the only thing we can do as a country, as a nation, as a community, as a culture.
Proud time to be a Canadian.
I was crying.
You're always crying, though. That don't count. You've cried multiple times already.
Yeah, I have. When I watched the fucking video.
It's too bad. See, you should start recording this and we can make a little compilation. We'll play the national anthem in the background.
No, it's not that. It's not the patriot. It's not about the country and the patriotism. That's what's weird. It's about maybe because
it's about the coming together.
We've been talking about this, and all of a sudden people are actually standing up for.
It's about finding out you weren't alone.
This whole thing. Yeah, that could be it. It's just finding out. Wow, look at all these people. Like I was saying, 100 kilometers east of Calgary, hundreds of cars, hundreds of people, families, every type of person out there. And all the truckers, I meant to say this before, all the truckers before the convoy came, because of course we're on the highway and the other street that turns into the 22X south of Calgary, truckers from all over were honking it as well. Like it wasn't just the convoy, but every truck that went by honked.
Well, yeah, vaccinated or otherwise. That's the other thing is that people need to realize is that there's just as many people that are vaccinated in this movement as that aren't. I mean, I know people that were there that were double vaxxed.
Yeah.
That just don't agree with the bullshit. There's people there that are triple vaxxed that just don't agree with the bullshit. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you want to jump into? Does that count as your Oppo? Should I play the jingle?
Yeah, that's my Oppo, like Operation Freedom Convoy.
Operation Freedom Convoy. We might have to take the other way when we go to Arizona now, though.
I know. That's.
I mean, it'd be fun to just go through it too, but it might add a long fucking.
Yeah, I know. It's probably
on a 22-hour drive. We don't need to add like 5 hours at the border.
Yeah,
be fun though. We should maybe rip down next weekend if it's still going.
How far is it from us?
Fucking 2 hours and 45 minutes, probably.
To what's happening there?
Yeah. You should go tomorrow. Oh, it's supposed to snow. Don't go tomorrow. We don't want to lose you in the field.
Yeah.
On a field mission. I don't know. I don't want to be legally responsible.
Yeah.
I don't want the company to be legally responsible for your death.
Dunlop's MIA.
Yeah.
So I got a quote, pretty long quote, and I've got some great emails. An email, sort of a follow up from Eastern Europe. So I'd like to do the quote first, then the email, maybe.
Quote, then email.
Yeah.
profound quote of the week. Darren, can you guess it? It's the profound quote of the week. Can you guess the human who spoke it or wrote it down? Profound quote of the week.
So this is from the book Secret Societies and Subversive Movements, and there's a couple
son of a
quotes.
bitch.
There's a couple quotes within here. Is that okay if I read a couple?
Well, I mean, you're doing it now, but I mean, it's really kind of like,
this is.
I guess, is it a quote if it's written in a book?
It's a quote in the book. There's
So,
some quotes
is that
in the
like
book, right? So
Is that a
this
different
is.
thing?
Well, I'm going to read because part of it's from the author as well, right? Too.
Okay.
So.
I'll give
But
it
it's
to
sort
you.
of got to do with what's
I
happening.
guess if
right
you
now.
wrote it, it's a quote.
very right. It's Operation Convoy Freedom as well in a lot of ways. So
100 years ago, Freedom Convoy, were they on horses?
and it's going back. It's talking about 80 years prior to that. So we're talking about like early 1800s here.
So they were on
Mid-1800s,
horses with
so.
carriages?
Yeah, freedom. I guess that was before Convoy was I wonder when Convoy was an actual.
Operation Freedom Death March?
Yeah. What was I going to say?
I think Convoy was
Oh,
from
this'll be
that.
out on-
I think
this'll
Convoy is from when you were in a trailer thing. Right?
Oh,
From
yeah,
back
maybe.
in those days?
Yeah, maybe. So
Because you were literally
be out in audio
dependent
soon.
on that group to survive your trek. Protect against my ancestors. And to like turn the wagons into a circle and sleep inside and post guards. We come fuck you up, take your shit. We were sick of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
So this is more than 80 years ago. A Frenchman endowed with extraordinary prophetic instinct foretold not only the danger that would one day come from Russia. So, and the other thing is fucking fascinating is they've been blaming Russia for a couple hundred years. They make a note in the early 1900s that they've been blaming Russia for forever.
Still here, 100 years later.
And then whose fault is the convoy? Oh, it's Russians. Come
Oh, yeah,
on,
I've seen
people.
that.
Fuck.
I've seen that.
It's
Could it be the
unbelievable.
Russians?
Oh, and get this. I mean, this is the same old fucking story. That's why, to me, these books are so important. And this one will be out on audio soon. But that the press would facilitate the destruction of civilization.
Imagine that.
When our cosmopolitan democracy bearing its last fruits shall have made of war a thing odious to whole populations, when the nations calling themselves the most civilized on earth shall have finished enervating themselves in their political debaucheries, the floodgates of the north will open on us once again. Then we shall undergo a last invasion, not of ignorant barbarians, but of cunning and enlightened masters. More enlightened than ourselves, for they will have learnt from our own excesses how we can and must be governed. It is not for nothing that Providence piles up so many inactive forces in the east of Europe. One day the sleeping giant will arise and force will put an end to the reign of words. In vain, then, distracted equality will call the old aristocracy to the help of liberty. The weapon grasped again too late and wielded by hands too long inactive will become powerless. Society will perish for having trusted to words void of sense or contradictory. Then the deceitful echoes of public opinion, the newspapers wishing at all costs to keep their readers, will push the world to ruin, if only to have something to relate for a month longer. They will kill society to live upon its corpse. Today, the newspapers, no longer the echoes of public opinion, but its supreme directors. This is, again, going back, way back. Throw open their columns to every form of disintegrating doctrine and close them to arguments that could effectually arrest the forces of destruction. And then he goes on, this is further on down the book, they're talking about Saint Etienne. I think they're saying all the societies, these secret societies, agree on the common purpose expressed by Robaud de Saint Etienne. In the words, everything, yes, everything must be destroyed, since everything must be remade. Build back better? It is idle to say that so insane a project can present no danger to the world. The fact remains that an increasing number of people regard it with perfect equanimity. The phrase, All civilizations have passed away. Ours will doubtless pass away likewise, is continually to be heard on the lips of apparently sane men and women who, whether they advocate such an eventuality or not, seem prepared to accept it in the spirit of complete fatalism and to put up no resistance. Has not the idea of the world state, the universal republic, become the war cry of the international socialists, the Grand Orient Masons, the Theosophists, and the world revolutionaries of our own day? I'll keep going. I got 2 more short paragraphs. Thus, as early as 1789, before the revolution had really developed, Delouchet uttered these words of warning. This is good. Deluded people learn that there exists a conspiracy in favor of despotism against liberty, of incapacity against talent, of vice against virtue, of ignorance against enlightenment. This society aims at governing the world. Its object is universal domination. This plan may seem extraordinary, incredible, yes, but not chimerical. No such calamity has ever yet afflicted the world. And then one more. And then thus in 1874, Malapert. What?
Monologue.
Malapert, orator of the Supreme Council of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, went so far as to say, in the 18th century, Freemason was so widespread throughout the world that one can say that since that epoch, nothing has been done without its consent. The secret history of Europe during the last 200 years yet remains to be written. Until viewed in the light of the Dessous Descartes, many events that have taken place during this period may remain forever incomprehensible.
I was seeing if I could put any effects on your voice, but I can't figure out how to work this new mixer.
The big like echo on my voice.
I don't know,
and then we got a great email from another. We're getting some emails from Eastern Europe. So
Eastern
I got one
Europe?
here.
Do we need an Eastern European jingle?
Oh, maybe with a funky accent.
Funky accent. All right, I'm looking for. Maybe I'll just use this one.
Graham. No, especially now with everything going on, it'd be great to hear from people all over the world. I mean, just tell us. I mean, we do get words from, the UK and Australia and some Eastern Europe and lots in the States and Canada, of course. But yeah, send your synchros, your jingles, your spiritual experiences, your feedback, your thoughts, UFO sightings.
Cash.
What's happening politically in your area, if you want. If the convoy has made it, to affect your area. So, hey guys, first of all, thank you for all your hard efforts to create the amazing content for us listeners. I heard someone from Poland sending you some info on communism, and I can only say that it was the rough outlines of a very sad era. I spent a part of my childhood in communist Hungary. I can say I had a happy childhood as I was. Oh, this is interesting, right? This is kind of like what we talk about. This is kind of what I grieve about or cry about how awesome our childhoods were. I spent a part of my childhood in communist Hungary. I can say I had a happy childhood as I was free to play outside with my friends, had a football to kick, a bicycle to ride, a river to swim in the summer. I was full of joy if we had 2 to 3 bananas at home in the winter, as it was a winter fruit for us. The very limited resources made us appreciate the smallest things in life. Kids nowadays want something new every day. The joy of opening presents at Christmas lasts for 30 minutes. I guess I was lucky to see the end of that era, as it was not so bad as 10 to 20 years before my birth. My grandparents told us many stories, most very sad ones. Yet they would have been very happy to go back in time to be that young again in that system. Now to COVID, it's Austria. In Austria, it is tyranny. If there's anything worse than that, please feel free to use that word.
Batshit crazy.
Despotism? I don't know. Batshit crazy? Authoritarian?
Austria's
totalitarian?
I mean, Europe's always been on the brink of totalitarianism, though. Let's be honest. I mean, outside of the UK, it's got.
That's why they're out there protesting. See, that's why the convoy is so important, because In Canada, we don't have that cultural
And we
memory.
don't want it.
We don't have
don't
that
have it. We
physical
can't
memory
yeah.
of this constantly. Europe has been in the throes of one war after another for thousands of years. We don't have that here. We just came and took over the
And
Indians
before that, just autocratic leaders.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really, things got democratic and shit just went into fucking total chaos.
Okay, let me see where we're at here. So he says,
yeah, it's an email now.
as of February 1st, all the unvaxxed will start receiving penalties around 4,000 euros. The tyrants were very kind. In Austria.
One time?
Austria. I don't know.
Let us know if that's like, is that a year, one time?
Is that a one time?
We're going to GoFundMe going for it. He's like, can you pay the $4,000 and then you're back in society?
Yeah, that's right. Do you get to pay? Are you buying your Vax Pass then, or are you just paying to stay out of jail?
Sounds like cheaper to buy the Vax Pass at that point. I heard
the tyrants. You could always, instead of paying the 4,000 euros, pay a sponge. The tyrants were very kind to remove prison sentence from their original plans. Holy. So, and here we are. People think we're fucking crazy talking about camps and stuff, and their tyrants actually went back a step to a huge fine instead of prison terms. I just had my third shot not to lose my green pass. We booked our holidays and I didn't not want to let my family down. Survived 2, so I took my chances after giving shit to Dr. Mengele, who gave me the shot. Funny that the fact, if you are or if you're not with the third booster, your third shot would count as your first, so you needed 2 more. 5 shots in total to have a green pass. Crazy. I think he meant late. So funny fact, if you were late with your third booster, this is what scares people here. Like, if I do change my mind, how am I going to catch up to the fucking regulations?
Just get them all same weekend.
Reading the form of consent states, the use of COVID-19 vaccines as third dose has not yet been approved. It says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The doctor asks you if you want the jab. If you say no, they don't do it. I asked her if she did her research on the subject, and she said yes. I told her I very much doubt it. Also, but it is sad to see someone who studies so much simply to jab people with this shit for money. She claimed that she's only protecting people. It actually all started off with me walking there with my mask only covering my mouth. She told me to put it on. I did not react immediately, so she grabbed it and pulled it up. So suddenly, she actually hit me. Had to warn her not to touch me and hit me again. A minute later, she apologized. I was a bit like a soccer player who was rolling on the grass to get the opponent's yellow carded, but really asking nicely and giving me 5 more seconds would have done it too. I can picture that. We were playing against the Czechs in hockey, man. They diving all
divers.
One little bump and they're just flopping on the ground.
Seems like racism or something.
It's not. It's just the way that they play sports. It's they're all known for that.
Okay. The
Russians, the
whites
Czechs,
are divers.
I promised not to go down without a fight, so at least had to stick to that. After discussing it numerous times yesterday, I decided that I did not want it, and my wife said, okay, but there's always a but. We cannot enter shops together, cannot go to places that the kids like, etc. So what do? I had a shitty day today thinking about both sides. I got to the point where I was thinking, I wish I did not have kids. This thought brings tears out. I do not remember the last time I cried, but I was close to it today. The existence of my child keeps me going every day. These bastards, in the name of protecting the nation, terrorizing people, splitting families with this mandate. There is resistance, and I'm ashamed that I could not. I'm ashamed that I think it would be easier without having a family. How horrible it is. I got to admit, it is easier without a family. So don't be ashamed for thinking that. It is easier without a family. Sometimes I think about what it'd be like to have kids through this whole thing and be way, way harder.
No, we don't mind. We're having a time.
Getting to
Makes
this
you
point,
fight harder.
What?
Makes you fight harder.
Getting to this point, wishing your or your other's life away. So I went for the shot, hoping those good docs in the U.S. are right and this crap leaves after 6 months. I rather wish that. This email is already too long, so last thoughts. Some predictions for the future. This is for the terrorist state of Austria. Kids mandated to be vaccinated by September 2022. PCR to be paid for from April 2022. Now it's free for all citizens. There is some resistance, but I tell you, these original Austrians are stupid as fuck and they love the jab. So weird, fucked up, backward country in many ways. Have you read about the ex-Prime Minister Kurz? Stole money, and instead of going to prison for 10 years, he was removed and now works for an American company that pays him $500,000 per year. He wanted to end COVID. Then news came out that he stole funds. Coincidence? No trial, nothing. Just moved from the big pick. Have an amazing weekend, guys. Istvan.
Might be time to get the fuck out of Dodge, Istvan.
Thanks, buddy. Great email. Appreciate it.
Might be time to get the fuck out of Dodge. I don't know if that's an option for you, but Austria seems to be extra terrible lately.
That's so weird that, you know, they would like it. I almost feel like it's almost like the Israeli thing, why they brought all these into Israel. Because
I'd like to know what the other Russia border states are like. I wonder if it's something to do with proximity to Russia. Because if you're getting ready to go into another war with Russia, you want control of those states' populations, maybe at a higher level. I don't know. Interesting to know if it fits into the Russia thing at all.
I don't know. It fits in with when you're at war all the time, you got to listen to your government, like the Israelis do.
Yeah, because
right?
wasn't like exactly. It wasn't like Kazakhstan was fucking crazy. Interesting to look at all those countries bordering Russia.
Yeah.
Is that would they be NATO, you think?
Austria is probably NATO, yeah.
NATO?
I'm not sure though. I can find out quickly.
North American Terrorist Organization?
Oh boy, don't say that. Oh, we're gonna be canceled for sure now.
Aren't we already? We're just like shadow banned right now. Not canceled. Are they? Yes, no. They must
there's
be.
A war. I mean, the war against Austria is a long-standing and major contributor to the NATO-led Kosovo force. So, member states of NATO, 30 member states. No, they're not.
They just pay. They're not.
No, they're supporting. They were supporting. That other headline was that they were supporting the NATO-led Kosovo force.
Oh, they're not
They joined the international security assistance in Afghanistan. This is going back 20 years now. Why hasn't Austria joined NATO? Switzerland, Austria, and Liechtenstein are the only Central European countries that are not NATO members. Huh. Lots of people asking the question.
Bingo bango.
There you go.
I found a thread. Pull on it, people. Pull on that thread. Speaking of pulling, pull out that wallet. Head over to groundamerica.ca/support. Sign up for a monthly this month if you can. We could use starting off 2022. Looks like we're bouncing back from COVID, hopefully. And, we could use some support around here. Graham taking a run at full time, coming into almost the end of his first year as a full time Grimerica employee. And we can't do that without your support. There is a churn rate, of course, with people always falling off. Every month you lose a couple supporters, so we need a couple new ones. And we know that's for various reasons. Some people stop listening to the show. Some people run into financial difficulties. That's fine. There's 95 or 98%-ish of the rest of the audience out there that can pick up your slack by heading over to groundamerica.ca/support today and signing up for a monthly. Like I say, it doesn't have to be forever. Do it for 6 months, helps. Do it for a year, it helps. Do it as long as you can. Make a one-time donation if you're not happy with that. A couple different platforms to do it there. We got Patreon, PayPal, Stripe. You can take cryptos if you email us, graham@groundamerica.com. And we need your support now more than ever. If you guys want to keep shows like ours around, head over to groundamerica.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly. Of course, you can always head over to Grimerica. You can always head over to grimericaoutlaw.ca. Check out that other podcast. We just crossed over 60 episodes in our 1-year anniversary over that. So you can get the last 33 episodes, the free version of the last 33 episodes for free, of course, over there. And if you decide you like what you hear, There's a whole plus program over there that'll get you like 65 episodes, and we do another one every week, and they're 2 hours long and that sort of thing. We got the chats, grimerica.ca/chats. We got the audiobooks, adultbrain.ca. We got about 40 books out there now, including the Charles Fort collection. Like Graham was saying, the Subversive Movements book will be out this week. So check it out, grab a book, use your credit, get an Audible, and that all helps support what we're trying to do over here, hopefully make the world a little bit of a better place.
Yeah, Sven was saying, loving the audiobooks. We'll get 3 more next week on Amazon, as Amazon has an offer on audiobook credits. I hope you'll be able to do some newer books as well, he says. And he follows the truckers. He says he thinks it's amazing for your country to have people like them and the supporters. The money donated speaks for itself. And then he also said, in my first email, I told you that your French blood has the rebel factor. Back then, things were okay there, so I guess I was right about that. It finally happened. I hope things will turn around in the very not democratic Austria, too.
We hope so too, buddy.
So that's good to hear people are listening to audiobooks from Europe as well.
That's right. We should get you speaking a couple different languages. I mean, really, let's start with like Spanish. But
yeah, you could sign up for audio. Is there a link or anything like that they should follow? Or
no,
we put a link in
no,
there?
I'm not kidding. We're bad enough with those bastards. Yeah, check out those audiobooks. Sign up for a month. You got anything else? Get out of here.
That's it.
Because we're going to jump into, we'll play you the quick little 14 or 15 minute blurb we did the other day of the truckers and Graham going to see him and all that. And then we'll jump into the interview about the Exotheology. Joel Parkyn? Joel Parkyn. All right, guys, enjoy the chat. Joel Parkyn. Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. A little special episode. This ain't going to last long. We said we were going to quit live streaming, but here we are with a quick one coming at you. We figured we'd pop in quick and do a little video to do a little shout out. We got the little phenom going on in Canada right now of the Freedom Convoy ripping across the country. They've raised closing in on $6 million. I was privileged enough to drive along beside him for a little while there. And Graham went and met him on the overpass. And we've had a bunch of people sort of writing in that they're along with them or going in. So we figured we just pop on and let people know that we wish we were there.
Yeah, I mean, that money's not going to go far with all these trucks going all the way across Canada with the gas and everything else that's going to cost them that. But I don't know. I've heard rumors that GoFundMe shut it down, but now it's up to 5.748 million. And, you know, that was when it was 4.5 million. So, you know, even this, there's rumors that Facebook deleted their 600,000 person group. And I mean, I haven't looked because I'm not on Facebook, but you just don't know what to believe these days, you know? But I do think this is a great way to protest. I mean, I really do think this is a way to get everybody together. I mean, you're seeing that these guys traveling along, they've got tons of support all the way along. Like I was super emotional the other morning. I was waiting for them at this intersection, like 100 kilometers east of Calgary, let's say. And there was hundreds of cars and hundreds of people that had just arrived at this one spot in the middle of nowhere to support them, right? A bunch of people had flags and stuff, and everybody was just great, just out there to support these guys. I mean, the support is unbelievable. And you know what? This is probably the best way to protest because we don't know what to do, right? There's not enough people in the cities walking around protesting, sitting at City Hall. That doesn't seem to do anything. But this is gathering groups of people from all over the country, you know, and anybody that wants to follow along can just follow along. I mean, it really does seem like an interesting way to do it. And if they gridlock Ottawa, then good. If it's peaceful, great, you know. It's supposed to be.
It seems pretty peaceful so far. I mean, did you see the thing about the Hutterites? The Hutterites went out and they were going to make them all dinner in Manitoba. They were making lunches and handing out lunches. I seen a couple posts of people are just handing them lunches all over the place. And I mean, I wasn't around for Terry Fox, but I think that's kind of got to be the closest thing, right? Other than when the Flames were in the Stanley Cup final. it was kind of like that around Calgary, but the rest of Canada really didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. That's more of a, yeah. I mean, Team Canada was pretty big, I think, in the Olympics. I was there for the Olympics, which was crazy. In 2010, that was kind of similar, but I mean, I think that this is just going to hopefully wake up some more people as well. And there'll be a bunch of people against it. I mean, the media is totally slagging them already. I mean, they will ignore it. They will try and push back against it. They'll lie through their teeth about it. They'll blame the empty shelves, on them. I think that's already happening. But the shelves were getting emptied before they started this. I mean, and let's not forget what triggered this, Darren? Was it the pivot on the vax mandate for these guys coming across the border, or for truckers in general? I mean, they were going to let them in and then they changed their mind again at the last minute. So, I mean, I don't know if there was some design behind this. I mean, I'm skeptical of everything. I hope that there's not a bunch of organizations that are going to hijack this movement. It seems to be pretty organic. It seems to be like they've got a pretty good team. Everybody's working together.
I think they got a lawyer on board now, so to help with like a lawyer and accountant to make sure all the money's like, hush, I'm just playing the video here now, or where there's like 400 or 500 people out in Steinbach, at the Steinbach and Highway 1 overpass. Like, this is literally in the middle of fucking nowhere, dude.
That's
like,
what I mean.
I've been there all the time. This is probably an hour east of the Winnipeg city limit, and it's probably about 40 minutes north of Steinbach. It's south of Breezebois up there, and it's just like, there's 400 or 500 cars out there. They're setting off fireworks, holding up signs. The other thing to remember is it's minus 30 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
Where those guys are right now. So then the Hutterites, they kicked them out. Manitoba wouldn't let them, or Winnipeg, the RCMP wouldn't let them. So they followed them to Kenora, Ontario, which is very close to my stomping ground.
Yeah.
And it was something like 25 different Hutterite colonies banded together.
Wow. That's amazing.
And fed them all.
That is amazing. Because they're kind of on their own little isolated thing. I mean, they're kind of on the outskirts of society as it is. So can I read this post from a nurse?
Sure.
Pretty emotional, but this is kind of, I agree. So this is Dear Truckers from us fired nurses. You have now felt what it feels like to be a hero to many. You have felt that indescribable, amazing feeling driving through those crowds of people. And this is from a few days ago. So this has been ramping up for a few days now. Crowds of people cheering for you today. I saw it on your faces. You were proud, humbled, inspired. Some of you no doubt had goosebumps, the hair raised up on your arms, and maybe even tears in your eyes. You felt that love. You drove through that wall of energy. Us nurses felt the same in September doing our protest. That energy was high. We will never forget. We felt so united, hopeful, and proud. We went to bed buzzing with that energy. The next morning, that changed. The most peaceful protest we had ever seen suddenly was twisted in the media and portrayed as violent. Disruptive. They said we blocked traffic and ambulances. They lied. They demonized us. The media headlines used dangerous language, turning the people against us. They reported that the thousands in attendance were only hundreds at best. They dulled our shine and dragged us down. They also called us terrorists. They crashed our high, broke our spirits. Nurses are tough, and they broke some of us that day. Don't let them break you. Don't let the headlines tomorrow or vilification thrown your way by some show, by some slow you down and steal your thunder. Roll past the barriers and hate thrown at you. Don't let the word selfish, that will no doubt be plastered around you, make you doubt yourself or your mission. That word really snuffed our flame. Don't let it dull yours. Keep rolling. We love you. We need you. Remember that energy and that love you felt driving past us today. It was real.
Yeah, from what I heard, there's like people on like almost every fucking overpass. There's always some haters. I'm trying to
find out why I got so emotional about it. Like, it was just,
because you're a black-pilled son of a bitch, and you had lost faith in everybody, and this just shows you that everybody kind of felt the same as you. Not everybody, but a lot of people.
No. But it does show people that we're not alone. I mean, that's what this thing, no matter what happens at the end of this, It's showing people that they're not alone, and there's a whole bunch of people that don't agree with these mandates, whether you're vaxxed or not. And this isn't about being anti-vax or not. A lot of these truckers are vaxxed, but they don't want it. They don't want mandates. They don't want to be told what to do when they enter this country, that they have to have this injection or that injection or this booster and that booster, or quarantine for 14 days or whatever the new mandate is supposed to be. Do you want me to play that thing of the lady that's running that, one of the ladies that's running this?
Is it a video? Do you want me to play that? Is that the video you sent me?
Yeah, it's the one I sent you.
Okay, what's that? You keep talking for a sec.
Yeah, so I mean, and then of course Trudeau recently. I mean, geez, what did he say? He said, "They're a small minority of people that don't think the same as you." I can get the actual quote, but just recently
with unacceptable
views or something. I mean, it's pretty. Oh, I think I took a picture of it. Hang on a sec here. Yeah, it's pretty gross, really. It's just division again. But I mean, what do you expect from those guys, right?
I want to thank you guys for bearing with me. I know I can get emotional, and I try really hard not to, but I'm just so damn proud of all of you.
Where'd you go?
I've said it before a million times.
I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry on the video.
I was at a point where I was giving up on Canada. And I was at a point where I thought we were at the point of no return. And you guys have given me hope. All of us hope here. You guys are giving us strength. You guys are keeping us going. And wow, we are one big team. One big national team, guys. We got trucks coming from the Northwest Territories. I think I told you we got clan mothers coming from the Northwest Territories. We have trucks rolling out of the north of Newfoundland. We got Americans coming to support. I was on the phone with an American last night who is sending his love and support, and he's saying that the entire world is watching us, and they are. I firmly believe this is our last stand, and we are not coming home until you are all free. I love you guys. I'll check in with you later, okay?
So Trudeau says, the trucker convoy making its way to Ottawa is a small fringe minority who hold unacceptable views and do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other. It's unbelievable. It's off the hook. It's off the hook. The demonization from our leaders and these mandates and the push, this totalitarianism that's coming down. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, people are waking up. Hopefully, you got something else there?
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to find here. Just keep talking for a sec.
Keep talking.
I mean, you're what book you're reading?
Well, I don't want to get into books right now, but I do have another thing I can just say, just to stick on the Trudeau thing. You're not going to believe this.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find is the Trudeau thing.
You've probably seen this already, but Klaus Schwab had this. I saw this thing in 2017. Says he's proud of his WEF infiltrating governments and personally knows more than half of Trudeau's cabinet. So he basically says, we've penetrated the cabinets. So these guys, it's clear that they're not only influencing guys like Macron.
People who are on their way to...
Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I didn't mean to play it. So this is the problem is I don't know how to use the Twitter when it's not on my phone.
Oh.
It's messed up.
The small fringe
Look at his eyes, man. He looks petrified.
Of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following the science, stepping up to protect each other is the best way to continue to ensure our freedoms, our rights, our values as a country.
Next question.
How those mandates working out for you there, Trudeau?
It's pretty funny. So I think that's all we got really to say. We figure we pop in and let everyone know if they haven't checked that out. If you just go to GoFundMe.com, It's the number one. It's like the number one GoFundMe in the world right now, or it's number one trending anyway. Here's a funny little thing we'll leave you with. So they made approaching $6 million in just under 2 weeks, and the Liberal Party was able to raise $3.2 million in 3 months before the election this year. So,
wow,
the fringe minority is coming.
They don't like it. I mean, I heard that Trudeau tried to talk to the GoFundMe people and shut them down or whatever. I mean, I don't know if that's happening or not, or I don't know if there's any problem with them getting the money out of GoFundMe. I mean, I haven't looked into it in detail, but it looks like
they don't seem to care about the money. And then they
bumped up the goal to 7 million now instead of 6.
Oh yeah, they keep bumping it up, as they should. And I think what they've said now is what they're going to do is they're going to, whatever's left over after, so the truckers get to submit the receipts, get reimbursed for food, lodging, gas, all that. And then if there's anything left over, it's getting donated to the Veterans Association.
Yeah, there's been some good videos on these guys talking about what this is really all about, and it's not what you're hearing in the media.
So we figured we'd pop in and get that out there. So tell your friends, support it if you can, support us if you can. We love you, motherfuckers, and keep hope alive.
Joel L Parkyn, welcome to Grimerica. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this will be fun. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How you guys doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. Surviving it. Well, it's getting a little cold here again in Canada, so we're hunkering down for a couple of days, and then hopefully March will be a warmer month, and we'll be back to 6 months of decent
weather.
Get
through February 1st.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's right.
Don't get.
I'm in Connecticut, so it's probably a little warmer down here, but we're still getting single digits in a lot of the evenings lately. So
yeah, it's pretty similar Connecticut to this Canada, I think. Yeah.
It has been way warmer here than Connecticut for the last week or so, though, and it will be again at the end of the week. Because single digit shit, that's like -10, -15 Celsius. We're probably like single digits Fahrenheit right now.
Yeah, it's chilly, so it gets a little uncomfortable at nighttime.
You guys have like furnaces and stuff? I know some of these southern crazy bastards in the southern states don't even have furnaces or nothing. My buddies in California don't have a furnace. I'm like, what happens if it gets cold? They're like, well, it doesn't get cold. Yet.
I used to live in California, and you're right. We get a rainy season over there, but not really any cold weather. I heat here in Connecticut. I heat with a wood stove, so that does a pretty good job to keeping me warm.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I always thought because grew up with the Hartford Whalers as a kid, and I always thought Connecticut was more. I felt like it was more like Canada.
Is that the capital? Hartford the capital of Connecticut?
Hartford's the capital. Yeah.
That is, I gotta say, that is got to go down as the ugliest logo of all time. The Hartford Whalers logo. Where did they end up?
One of the ugliest cities of all time.
Is it? It matches? Yeah. It's like a Cleveland-esque or something like that. I've never been to Cleveland, so I shouldn't bash on Cleveland. It's like Edmonton.
Connecticut has 4 of the top 10 poorest cities in the country, and happens to be the wealthiest state in the country.
The what estate? What was the last thing you said?
It has 4 out of the top 10 poorest cities in the country, and they're all located in the wealthiest state in the country.
Oh,
So,
wow. Oh, yeah, that's
yeah,
crazy. So well, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into your book, Exotheology.
Exotheology, right? Well, I former professor at a Catholic school, Holy Apostles College and Seminary in Cromwell, Connecticut, and I did my doctorate in exotheology, actually, which is what this book is. This is basically my dissertation, and
wow,
I have been interested in this subject for a long time. I was really into UFOs and thinking about extraterrestrial intelligence for a long time since I was a kid, and wasn't really religious, actually. Later in the military age, I was in the U.S. Marines. I had a conversion experience when I was in the U.S. Marines, and that led me to start thinking about what this whole God idea was.
Wow.
And it took me a long time to figure out where I kind of belonged and where I fit in. And I did a lot of research and thinking and going to different churches and trying to figure out what was what and trying to discern through that process what the truth might be. And so it was a long process. Eventually ended up doing work in philosophy and theology, and then I decided to really start thinking about this issue of religion and the idea of extraterrestrial intelligence. What I found was not very much as far as substance in this area of research. So I decided I wanted to take on myself to do it myself. And so I spent 7 years researching this topic at a postgraduate level, and eventually produced a document which is the Exotheology book you have now.
That makes sense of why there is way more information and data in there than I thought from ancient sort of writings about multiple worlds and UFO, extraterrestrial intelligence and that. So you found that there just wasn't a lot there. So you dug into it yourself and basically wrote it feels like a reference book to me. Like you've got all that information laid out going all the way back. So I guess you just took it upon yourself to do that.
Well, the book's actually a pared down version of what I actually wrote in entirety. The publisher would not let me include everything. There was a word limit that they gave me. Yeah, so I mean, it would have been much more extensive had I not had that word limit imposed upon me. But it is true that if you look at Christianity, because I'm looking at this from a Christian perspective, that this is a very old question. Actually, go back to the ancient Greek philosophers. But as far as any theological development done, there's been very little. Most of it's been done, I would say, more recently within the last 50 years within the space age. You've had some more theologians who've thought about this, but again, not in any systematic or complete way. Definitely not at book length. There's a few treatises that have been produced on the subject, but they're very thin. And one was done recently by Ted Peters, who's a Lutheran theologian over in California, and he produced a couple years ago a good book which has a compilation of other writers on this topic. But what I think I produce is a much more extensive historical view of what's been done so far, and so that's what I've put together.
Yeah, before we get into that, I am curious about your conversion experience in the U.S. Marines. Can we talk about that a little bit, and then we'll get deeper into the contents of the book?
Sure. Let's see. I was not raised religious. My mother was a Roman Catholic. My father is I'd probably say he's probably an atheist. I think he's an atheist. For what I know, he is. So I was raised without any kind of religious understanding whatsoever. I was issued, when I was in boot camp, basic training, they issued all of us a camouflage-covered New Testament to keep in our person, and I had never read the New Testament before. So at one point, when I had been in about a year, I was stationed in California. I was a cartographer at the time. I was a map maker. I opened the New Testament, and I read it for the first time ever. And what I read really stunned me. I've been a big reader my whole life as a kid. I read a lot when I was a kid. I had hundreds of books, had a quite extensive library, but I had never read anything having to do with religion. So when I first read the New Testament for the first time, I was stunned. I was stunned by it, and The Gospel of John especially really had an impact on me. And so I finished it in a short period of time, and then a few weeks passed, and then one day I was standing outside in California, my barracks, actually, on a weekend. There's no one around. And I just all of a sudden had an experience, and it just kind of came upon me without anything that seemed to precede it. And I had an experience of, like just a religious experience of God. The presence of God I was aware of God, and I was aware that this was a real kind of thing, and that there was a presence. And it was very powerful. It was very unmistakable. And I've never had an experience quite like that since that time. But there's no question, at least in my mind at that time, that there was something beyond what I believed the world was about before that. And so that led me to start questioning this idea about religion and Christianity and what it was all about.
Did it surprise you how deep the Christianity went, and the documents and all the books prior to the New Testament and all the
I wasn't educated or exposed to any of the writings at all during religion. I didn't know anything about there being a theological tradition or any kind of any kind of I didn't know nothing about the Christian denominations. I knew nothing of the history of the Christian Church, Catholic Church. So I had to go on a long journey of learning about this on my own. It took a while. I didn't study it academically the first time. I just went to different churches and tried to understand what they were doing, and that's how it started.
Yeah, it's the more I kind of learn about all these different sort of theologies and philosophies, I'm just astounded how deep and how many there are and how far back it goes.
Well, in our country alone, there's over 30,000 different Christian denominations, none of which agree with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And many of which have the same Bible, the King James Bible, for example, and many of which reference the same Bible, but they all agree with what it says, but not what it means. So that's something I encountered later on, was that I was going to different Protestant churches and seeing a pastor talk about their approach to Scripture, and then point his finger across the street at a Lutheran pastor who he did not like particularly, and making claims about how he's incorrect. And so eventually I went over to that church, and I sat down and I listened to him, and he eventually pointed his finger across the street to the guy. And they both I found they're both using the same Bible. So I started getting curious about how this could be, and then that led me to eventually stop going to church and just started to research Christianity as a historical subject, not as a worshiper.
Wow!
I started looking at Christianity as an academic subject, not necessarily as a belief system.
Wow, that's fantastic! Yeah. So is that the King James Bible that they're both reading? The one that the Queen swore on?
1618, is that it?
1611, maybe.
Yeah, it was. As far as I could tell, it was the same Bible.
Yeah, that's interesting.
How did the switch in gears affect your faith?
I'm sorry?
How did that switch up? Like, were you pretty much done with faith already, or how did, like, going into and exploring Christianity from that perspective, what did it do from a faith perspective?
Well, first of all, I was quite dismayed at the situation, because I got ganged up upon by different pastors when I challenged their interpretation of certain things, and I challenged why their interpretation was different from other interpretations, and so I ended up leaving that church I was going to in California because of that kind of thing, and I eventually just left, and I still felt that this Christianity meant something important. The message of Christianity was very powerful, and it had a lot of meaning to me. But I didn't feel necessarily that I would find it in any specific church necessarily, or from some particular pastor's lips saying something to me. And because I realized that truth has to be a unity, philosophically speaking, anyway, ontologically speaking. And so, if truth is a unity, then these denominations are all incorrect, or only one of them is right. And that's just a logical kind of path I followed, trying to figure out what was what. And it took some time.
Oh, yeah. Darren, do you have a question to follow up on that, or?
No, I guess I'm curious to see where it ends up, which I guess we'll get to as we go through the rest of the interview.
Well, I guess let's start with this before we go into the book too much. Have you had any UFO sightings, or has there been anything like experiential or physical that also sort of woke you up to that side? Or I know you've always had an interest in that, but
I was a voracious reader of UFO literature from a very young age, as far as I can remember, and I've I've schooled myself quite a bit on the UFO phenomena prior to getting into Christianity. So I've looked at both of these things quite extensively. No, I have not had any UFO experiences per se. I guess I could say the closest thing I think I've come to something unusual of that nature maybe would be when I was a helicopter hovered over me on two separate occasions for long periods of time. And I know just within the ufological literature that's something that sometimes can be connected with UFOs or extraterrestrial visitation. But U.S. helicopters are helicopters piloted by humans, government type helicopters, all blacked out windows, they're all completely black, no markings whatsoever. I've had that happen to me twice on two occasions, but I couldn't connect it with anything I was doing particularly at the time. I wasn't working in this area at that time, so I'm not sure what that meant, and I don't know still to this day why that happened. Yeah.
So how did you go ahead?
It was unusual, and I couldn't figure out why I was being pursued by a helicopter like that.
Because you're writing a book on Christianity and UFOs.
At that time, I don't think I was, and if I had started it, no one knew about it.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know about the black helicopter thing. I mean, I always think of it as, in a response to something,
Right.
So as
far as UFOs goes, I've been a ardent follower of ufology, but I don't have any personal experiences of that at all.
Well, what do you think about that in general then, as a field of study, the conclusions like interdimensional versus ET versus breakaway civilization versus black projects?
Yeah. Well, I think the literature is a lot of literature. I think from an academic perspective, that's where I come from. I don't find very convincing, but I do think there is some literature that's produced by some good researchers that's very important. So I do think if you're looking at the phenomena as a whole, I think it's a serious phenomena. It's real. I definitely think it's real. And I do think the conclusions that have been reached as far as earthly visitation and any kind of contact, whether not official or non-official, whether communal or individual, I think that there are plausible scenarios of those things may have happened. Absolutely. I do think obviously the government has complicity in a lot of this stuff. So I do agree with some of the mainline conclusions, I would say, of ufology. And I do think that science and theology and religious institutions should study it carefully, and they're not. So I tend to think that, just to give you a kind of broader view, what I have on this whole thing as far as ufology and then academic study, I do think that more bridges need to be built between the academy and ufology. And that's one thing I'm trying to do in a book I'm actually currently working on. This book here has to do with ETs as an academic subject. It doesn't delve into ufology or claims of visitation of that nature. It deals strictly as a hypothetical. If ETs are real, whether they're here or whether they're discovered or found in other places, what's the implication for Christianity in that sense? But I do think again that theology and theologians and the scientific community should be much more engaged with ufologists on this stuff. Yeah, and it's sad that it's not.
Yeah, totally.
And I think more science.
Mm-hmm. That was one of my main problems with what was happening, was it's just being ignored. It's a mystery that needs to be explored and not ignored. And I think that it's gonna change a little bit now that the government's got an organization made to get funding to do their little aspect of the research, although I don't trust it. But I mean, it is getting some mainstream attention. You think it's going to change then in the near future?
No, I don't. And I'm very, very skeptical towards the idea that they're advancing right now, that by having an office, which is an open office in the sense that we know about it, and they're making this public, that's going to somehow make us more trustworthy, or that what they say about this phenomenon is going to be more plausible. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think that this is more of a kind of a way to placate people, and I do think that as far as the government's involvement. I think they do want to disclose. Certain individuals want to disclose because we had a lot of leaks. We've had many leaks from people. But I think it's more like a drip kind of phenomenon. I think that the government planning on disclosing, but it's maybe a 50, 60, 75, 100-year process. It's not going to be something that's going to happen necessarily now. It may be quite some time before they let us know about stuff. And I think that's probably I think that's probably the right decision. In that sense, I think that what they know will be very, very destabilizing for our society, and I think that's why they don't disclose it. But I think they have to do it in a very slow fashion. I think that's what they're doing by slowly getting us climbing to the idea that this stuff is real, which I think they've done through the done cameras they've shown us last year. Before that, they're slowly, warming up the idea that this could actually be real. So again, I think that's all part of the plan. What's interesting now, I think, is that the James Webb Telescope, for example, that's just been launched on December 25th this last year. I think that may be an opportunity again for them to perhaps turn the heat up a little bit more for us on this kind of thing, because if they do discover any evidence of a technological society, any technosignatures or biosignatures on faraway planets, they could claim, hypothetically, that, okay, we found something that's not natural, but it's so far away and it poses no threat to us whatsoever. That'd be more of a safe bet to disclose something like that, of that nature, maybe at some point. Not now, of course, but maybe some point, maybe 10 years from now.
So we don't freak out?
That would be a very... I'm sorry?
Just so that we don't, freak out?
Yeah, because basically, in the book I do list, and I think in some of the footnotes, some of the there's actually quite a few different, you can call them disclosure/contact scenarios which are possible. For example, we could have something like the Daily or So Still, and a craft lands on the White House lawn, or somewhere in New York, or we have something which is far away. For example, like 2001 out in space, and obviously the further away the contact or information comes, the less threatening it is. So if we have found something on a planet which is light years away, several dozen or 100 light years away, it's never going to be considered threatening to us. It would be threatening to us maybe conceptually, ideologically, maybe philosophically, but not practically or really. And that's, I think, maybe, I'm just speculating here, that may be a way that will be useful for them, the people who do know stuff more than we do, to slowly get a climate to the idea that there is something besides us. And that may be the direction they're going. I don't know.
Well, as long as I got you speculating, do you mind speculating on maybe what some of those disruptive technologies might be? Like, do you think it's a free energy thing, or is it from a religious standpoint, that sort of disruption?
I think there's disruption on several different levels, yes, including those two you just mentioned. The religious implications are quite formidable, actually, and I really have a skeptical eye towards those who claim that it's not. And I do go into detail that in the book here about that. And as far as how it would impact our economy and that kind of thing, yes, I mean there are people in ufology who make all kinds of claims about how Richard Dolan has mentioned this several times, obviously, and he has mentioned about how if an energy source, was available, which would basically cancel out our need for oil, it would change the world economy overnight. And people don't want to do that. They don't want to change that. So there's many implications. Religion is very important to many people, and so the religious aspect is very important. I focused on that here.
Yeah, but
we can't ignore that.
I really got the feeling in your book that, and I might be wrong about this, but that this shouldn't be a surprise for religion, but it is. Like that they talked about it enough in the past that it should be more accepting. I mean, it sounded like there was a official acceptance of different cosmologies, multiple worlds, different extraterrestrial civilizations, but then it's sort of all got, now in our new age here, it's all sort of finally opening up, but was suppressed for hundreds of years. Is that a decent synopsis, or?
It's partially accurate. I mean, the thing is, there's a few different things here. Number one is we can't think of Christianity, religion in particular, or even Christianity, as a monolithic entity. Christianity is very, very, I said before, it came with 30,000 different Protestant denominations in this country alone. So there's quite a bit of variety in the Christian thought. And so different traditions will react differently, institutionally and individually. People react differently. Also, the idea, thinking about ET disclosure or ET contact with humans and that the religious reaction to that. It's one thing to think about this as a hypothetical, and I think it's a very different thing for it to happen practically, really. So people have hypothesized over time as to how Christianity would react institutionally and individually, and I think that those expectations are not really realistic. I do make reference, for example, to the Conquest of Mesoamerica, for example. You have a highly advanced civilization in the form of the Spanish empires and the conquistadors coming into Mesoamerica and completely transforming that society in a very, very short period of time because of advanced military power, and of course because they brought a lot of disease with them, smallpox, for example, which killed about 90% of the inhabitants. But the point is that we don't know how this will play out, and I think that's part of the reason why we're not getting disclosure that many in the ufological community want. There's a lot of unknowns here, and we just don't know. I think that yes, there are people who would react in a way positively to some kind of disclosure. Obviously, there's a segment of the population that may, and I think there are absolutely certain segments of the population that would react very poorly. For example, evangelicals, fundamentalist Christians are usually very, very reticent to acknowledge any kind of idea of ETs because of their reading of the Bible.
Yeah, and then the problem is the trust level too. I mean, now it seems to be eroding very fast. I mean, I was just reading these books from Charles Fort talking about UFOs and lights in the sky, and a lot of pushback against the astronomers because they would just disregard all this data that would change their paradigm, right? They would accept all this stuff that, and then they would all have these consensus on, this new planet or new star is going to arrive here. This eclipse is going to happen here. And they were wrong completely many times. So he's like, well, these people just disregard all this data if it doesn't fit their paradigm. And yet they're not accurate half the time. So, I mean, my trust in the scientific institutions is totally low, and then government as well. So, and then religion. I mean, it's like the three things that you don't want to trust right now: scientism, religion, and the government. How does that implicate?
Right. Yeah. One thing I think which is helpful though is that we're able to substantiate. If you look just at ufology, for example, and how we're able to now, I think, substantiate to a much more accurate and reasonable degree what is out there, what's happening. So we have, smartphones which have pretty good cameras on them now, and they're able to record pretty well. And we have the ability to see things and record things we couldn't before. For example, sometimes I was watching a video a few weeks ago about this cop who pulled somebody over and just sucker punched this guy who had his hands up. Just sucker punched him, and that was caught on a camera by somebody had a camera to videotape that. Now that wouldn't be possible 20 years ago. He'd make a claim, well, this guy punched me, and there's no way it can be substantiated. Now we have so many people who have smartphones now, which I think is a huge deal. We can document so many things that are happening nowadays, and understanding that many videos on YouTube, for example, of UFOs are probably really good fakes, but there's a good number that are real and can be substantiated through video forensics to be real video. And so this shows this stuff is real. So that's why I'm saying to you earlier that the scientific community needs to kind of get on board with some of the evidence that we've been able to compile over a long period of time, and that now I think is burgeoning quite a bit, that we can kind of look at this as more as a scientific subject rather than a just a figment goes on, just a claim that we're making without substantiation.
Did you research at all, or I mean, I know you're so well read on the subject, and I'm sure you know about it all. But I mean, as far as like putting sort of this type of thing in your book with contact through global grassroots organizations nowadays, like ET what is it called? ET
Let's Talk.
Yeah, thanks. ET Let's Talk, or CSETI, or all these C5 organizations that are out there making contact with what they think is ETs. Now, there could be an analogy to old ancient magic traditions and making contact and conjuring, different entities and spirits or whatever. I mean, there's all these kinds of parallels people make, but how does that fit in there at all? Or why can't, what annoys me about the scientific community and sometimes other people, they just don't go out there and fucking try to make contact themselves. They're just waiting for a scientific study or an overwhelming amount of evidence from people's cell phones or whatever. Have you ever thought about that?
I think, yeah. I think I'm not that familiar with what you're describing as far as those groups who attempt contact or claim contact with ETs. I'd be interested to see what kind of evidence they can produce. I'm somebody who's convinced by evidence. I mean, I think
if you see it yourself? Because you can't get.
That's great.
Because I can show you all the flash bulbs and slow fast walkers and these low flying lights on, and it's just a bunch of lights on a phone, or a better, I mean, you kind of got to experience it in a way. Well, evidence to me, it's just somebody can just, like I was saying about in the 1800s, they just take what they want and push away what they don't want to fit their paradigm.
Right. Well, I think if ufology wants to have mainline credibility, which I think it needs to have, then it needs to adopt more scientific methods to substantiate its claims. So, for example, if you're talking about people who are taking photographs and they say this is an ET or this looks like a craft, that kind of thing, then it should go through a rigorous process of analysis. And I think that they should use the tools of science to do this. I definitely think that video forensics, which is really a promising field, now it's used mostly in law enforcement and investigations and that kind of stuff. But it absolutely should be used for ufological research. Absolutely, I've talked to MUFON about this, and they have one or two guys in the entire organization nationwide who do this, and they do it on a part-time, limited basis, and they don't do a lot of it. And so,
right.
Video forensics is a very, very important tool ufology should be using, especially since we have so much video it could be analyzed, and I think it should be put into the same rigorous process as anything else. So that's something that should be done. I mean, SETI, obviously SETI is doing something which is they claim is the real effort to contact ETs, of course. And they ignore any claims of ET contact here, which I think is absolutely foolish. Again, I think that the scientific community really needs to take a hard look at what ufology claims and put it through a vigorous process of analysis. And I think we can do that better now. Because we do have technology now which can really do a good job at ferreting out bogus material and help us to figure out what's really going on. And that's a really important thing that should be done. And it's not.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just I just don't trust the institutions to do that. That's all. I mean, it's just I feel like there's the implications of trying to do too much scientific evidence that it ruins the whole experience. I mean, I know it sounds like a cop out, but there is a tendency for that to happen.
Right, but I think the ufological phenomena, as a phenomena, has revealed itself to be something doesn't fit squarely into our scientific categories necessarily all the time.
Right.
So there are paranormal aspects of the phenomena, which we should not ignore, actually. We should pay careful attention to those.
Yeah.
There are phenomena. If you look at religious phenomena, for example, I've done a lot of research into, religious phenomena and claims of, Marian apparitions, for example, claims of incorruptible saints, that kind of stuff, stigmata, weeping statues, etc. There are claims of this kind which have been shown to be scientifically unexplainable. Under vigorous analysis, they cannot explain it. This is a phenomenon that transcends our ability to understand scientifically. It means something. It is something beyond us. We just, so as religious the Catholic Church, for example, will make certain claims about what these things mean. But even if you don't want to accept those claims from a religious perspective, you have to say, at least from a rational perspective, that there's something going on which doesn't that's not human. So when you look at the ufological literature, we're kind of in the same category in a way. We're looking at something we don't quite understand, but we know is real, and science should be brought to bear on this stuff.
I agree with you. Yeah. I love how you brought in the apparitions and the saints and the stigmata. And I mean, that kind of brings me to wonder about, did you come across this pushback that, or this feeling that, like, I know there's a group in the government from decades ago, the Collins or the Collins elite, that basically chalk all this up to demons, right? Like there's a whole, Nick
Redfern. Nick Redfern wrote a book on that. I've got it here.
But do you think that is that a blockage there, that they're just taking this to final events? Yeah. It seems like there's more of a push these days for Christians to call anything like this, demons, basically.
Well, I think that's very one-sided and simplistic thinking. I mean, and there's a lot of that going around. Christians tend to think in very simple categories, and so if something within their category of thought, they dismiss it. They try to explain it away within that category of thought. So, if UFOs are coming down, if there's a claim of seeing humanoid entities roaming around on Earth, if there's a claim of inexplicable lights in the sky, well, we have to explain that. No, we can't explain that within the Christian paradigm. I think that's really a serious fallacy on the part of many evangelicals and Christian fundamentalists. It's a very easy go-to to explain something they really don't understand. There's nothing within the literature of ufology or Christian theology which says we can't have both. And I mentioned this a few times in my book, is that there's no fundamental incompatibility for there to be humans, angels, demons, which of course are also angels, and biological entities which do not originate from Earth. So we can have all of these things happening at the same time.
That's kind of what I was getting at. When did it shift? Like when did Christianity, as a broad term, get so closed-minded towards this whole thing? Because like I mentioned, that's the feeling I got from your thing, is that it can be compatible due to all these old documents and this old literature that seems to be more accepting of this. How did we go the opposite way, or when?
Towards dismissing unknown phenomena as being.
Yeah, or just not accepting that it's just not fitting into that whole paradigm, the Christian paradigm.
Well, it's gone back and forth historically speaking. I mean, we've had early in Christian pre-science days, the pre-scientific era. People had a host of beliefs about beings and about other. Fontenelle was our French philosopher, amateur astronomer, and he believed there were other beings on the worlds, and that there are spirits in between here and the ether of Earth. And of course, even during the New Testament period, there was in the ancient period of Christ period, for example, Paul especially mentions the idea of spirits and principalities and powers that existed within this realm between Earth and the heaven. And so the idea was that these other intelligence existed, which we couldn't quite explain, but this was kind of like, this mythology that existed, this kind of Hellenistic mythology which existed. But if you come back to modern time, as science progressed, and as telescopic technology advanced, a lot of these ideas kind of fell away. For example, once we realized that Mars didn't have canals, that was just that were made by ETs. Our telescopic technology advanced, but we could tell they weren't just canals, and they weren't like produced artificially. Then that whole idea of there being other beings in our solar system kind of fell away. And as our space science advanced, we realized more and more that we're actually the only ones here in our solar system. Supposedly, we're only humans. We're only rational animals or intelligent beings in the solar system. So more skepticism towards the idea of ETs in that sense. So that started developing more.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, when do you think that was? Like 1800s or?
Well, no, the space age, which started, with Sputnik in 1957, we started developing our space program, and we started learning more about space, and even, late 1900s, late 1800s, I'm sorry, people still believe that there might be, inhabitants in some of the planets, but as soon as we got into more of a technological age, and we started developing our space program, we realized we knew that we didn't have an inhabited moon, for example. Mercury was not inhabited. Venus was not inhabited. And these are ideas that were floating around. Well, there's claims. There's all kinds of claims. They're interesting.
Yeah.
They're very interesting.
Yeah. No, that makes sense though. So that basically started to take over that, and then it became less acceptable for religion as well. Or maybe it gave religion a reason not to include that in the paradigm.
The thing that I'm writing that's written in this book is one of the main arguments here is that theologically we've been geocentricized for so long. Our theology is really behind this times, and that's what I argue in the first couple chapters. So if you look at Christianity as a whole, or Catholicism, my tradition is Catholicism, we've really lagged behind quite a bit scientifically. Science has advanced in many areas, on many fronts. Obviously, theology has not advanced along with science. We were behind. We were behind when the Darwinian revolution happened, and we had to catch up to that. We're still actually kind of dealing with that. We're still dealing with modernism, the Christian churches, and so we're now exploring the cosmos. And theology has not quite even begun to think about this. This book, Exotheology, is really an effort to try to make Christianity think about this seriously and systematically, and how it would contend with the idea of there being ETs. And so there's a lot of catching up to do. And exotheology, I think, really is, to be honest with you, I really think exotheology is going to be the future of theology. If we do discover any kind of sentient life, or even non-intelligent life, even bacterial life, simple life, microbial life, anywhere, that's going to present to us what I call a second genesis. It'll be a watershed moment for us, for humans, to understand that we are not the only center. We are the center of anything. We are not the focus of the only focus of God's attention, for example, and that there are other points of creation that are maybe just as viable and important as we are, and that will represent a very, very I think a change probably on the scale of the Darwinian revolution.
Didn't the Pope come out and say like aliens are fine and vaccines are cool and aliens are fine? I don't know if it was at the same time, but the Pope seems to just say whatever, like I swear. And then I thought I read something the other day about NASA, like bringing in a bunch of theologians to like prepare the public. 21
of them or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did work on that program a few years ago. I did work with the Center for Theological Inquiry, which is located in Princeton, New Jersey, and they had worked under a grant by NASA on the sociological implications of extraterrestrial contact, or the implications of astrobiology and what astrobiology finds in the universe. And so I did work on that for some time a few years ago with that group. Andrew Davison is a British theologian, and he's been involved as well. I don't know the others, but anyway, it's the Pope. The Pope says a lot of things which I don't really give him much credibility for. But I do have relationships with some of the Vatican astronomers, and they're well aware of my work on this area, and we've had conversations about this kind of stuff already. They have two observatories, one in Castel Gandolfo, which is in Italy, and one here at Mount Graham, Arizona.
Yeah,
so we've
that's kind of what I was going to ask you I know there's some catching up to do, it seems, but they do have their own telescopes. So, I mean, they can't be that far behind if they've got their own telescopes.
I think they have a bunch.
Is it just not, I know, but is it just not getting down to the people? Like,
well, they're priests/scientists. They're all principally scientists, and they're also ordained priests. Most of them are Jesuits, and so their principal work is studying astronomical objects. Brother Guy Consolmagno is the current head of the organization, and he is a specialist in meteors. And they have many projects they're working on. But I was kind of surprised to find that when I was working on this a number of years ago, I went to Rome and I talked to them extensively. They weren't working on anything of this nature. They weren't working on this area in theology whatsoever. And I was surprised. I thought they'd be ahead of me.
Oh, well, yeah,
they weren't.
exactly. So they're just looking for meteors and stuff. They weren't really.
Well, publicly they are. I mean, I'm aware that they produce papers. They do good scientific research. The hopes are very impressive, and they do very important work. But as far as the theology goes, I haven't seen a lot, at least presently speaking. They've written some things. Yeah. They've been interviewed. Quite a few times publicly on these matters, but they haven't produced anything of a book length, for example, or even an article. Not too much, very little actually, theologically. So The Catholic Church as an institution has not made any official proclamations or has given any definitive teaching in this area. I've talked to a few bishops about this, my own bishop actually as well, and we've had some correspondence, and basically their view is this is an academic subject, basically. So this is not something the church can judge on as far as a doctrinal matter. It's really something that the academy has to look at, and that's where it is. So the church is leaving this area of research and inquiry to the academy, and that includes me as well. So that's where they're putting it. They want the specialists in the academic disciplines to look at the subject, theologians, scientists, people like me and a few other people, to look at this carefully and systematically and come to some very careful conclusions of what it could mean for Catholicism if there was any kind of confirmation of extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yeah. So, wow. Is it true that one of their telescopes is named Lucifer?
That's what I've read, yeah.
That one's for looking at the sun.
It's an acronym for something. I can't recall what it is.
Looking under...
Light,
comets.
Looking under something.
Looking under comets.
Yeah, it's an acronym for something, but it's interesting.
Looking under comets in case I find insidious extraterrestrial robots.
Resonance.
It's all robots out there. It's all robots.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. I mean, shouldn't you just assume that there's extraterrestrial life, even if it's only interdimensional, or like, shouldn't you just, not you personally, but Catholicism as a strategy going forward, just assume that there is, non-human entities?
Well, we have a very, very long and well-documented tradition of non-human entities, and they're called angels.
Well,
so
yeah.
But let me just reframe this for you. Angels and demons are demonstrable, in my opinion, based on the information, based on the literature, which is extensive, are absolutely real. So we know these things exist. So what that means is, what are angels? Angels, in my opinion, are extraterrestrial intelligences. They don't originate from this planet. So, and if you're looking at this as far as trying to categorize them, they are ETs in that sense. They're not biological ETs, but they are absolutely ETs, and they're incredibly ancient as far as we know. They're ages of extreme antiquity. We don't know how old they are. My personal opinion is they don't originate from this where we are at all. They may have preceded the creation of the astrophysical universe. They could be that old. We don't know. God, as a divine being, as an infinite mind, as a benevolent entity, is an extraterrestrial in that sense as well. He's not human, that's for sure, and he doesn't originate from Earth either. So we're already encountering, in that sense, extraterrestrial intelligence. It's powerful, formidable, demonstrable extraterrestrial intelligences in the form of what we see in our religious traditions. These are very real. There's no question about that in my mind. But formulating the idea of what ETs are, we have to acknowledge that, and within our religious tradition, we already have interactions with an extraterrestrial intelligence. And I think that that's an important distinction we need to make when we start thinking about this kind of stuff, because if that's true, if that's real, then it's not really a stretch in my mind to think about biological ETs in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at, yeah.
Do you think it's biological ETs coming here? Do you think it's like some sort of drones that would come the distance, or?
Well, I think the ufological literature, which spanned now since the 1940s that we have, indicates pretty substantially that there's a variety of types. There are no doubt biological ETs that are not too different from us in that sense as far as their basic physical structure. And then there are no doubt that there are others that are probably fully synthetic beings. And then as well as robotic beings. There's a great variety of beings that have been encountered and that have been, it's been documented that they've interacted with us in some way. So I do think that those are representations of what's really out there. And it's not too far, I think, from what we'll be able to accomplish, and probably not too far in the future. You know, we're trying to create synthetic life. I don't think we're far away from that. It may be a simple life, maybe very, very simple synthetic life. But we're trying to do this. Robotic life, robots, AI is moving very, very quickly. Within 100 years, I don't think it should be a surprise to anybody if we find, very intelligent robots walking around and very normal-looking synthetic humans walking around. I don't think that's really a stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I agree, and it seems like. Oh, I fucking lost my train of thought there. I was going to mention these things coming back to the 50s. What was I going to say? Oh, I totally lost it. It was about different types of ETs and kind of I was going to mention the whole disclosure, like this soft disclosure that's happened recently. And it didn't seem to cause as much of an uproar as I expected from people, not us, but people that normal people that never really believed in UFOs, I mean, did you expect the reaction that happened from that?
Referring to the gun camera photographs?
This whole government disclosure, media, the mainstream media, all of a sudden accepting the mystery, really, is how I would like to summarize it.
Yeah, I guess you can consider that a good or important development as far as media attention goes.
But what about the people?
Yeah, and I think that. That may, it's hard to say. We're speculating here. I mean, it may or may not be deliberate. As far as wanting to, allowing for more media attention, because just given how our media is constructed, how it's constructed and how it's designed, we have only a few. Most of our media comes to us from a very few people. 80% of our media is controlled by 7 companies or 6 companies. 80% of everything we see, read, and hear comes from 6 different companies, 6 different individuals who control 6 different companies, media companies. So there's a stranglehold on what we're being told, and what we're not being told.
Well,
so I would imagine. Public reaction?
Yeah. Because it kind of was underwhelming, really, this whole last few years about this. It's like, oh, UFOs exist. Oh, okay. But to me, we're ripe for more knowledge on this because nobody really give a shit, it seems like.
Well, I think that the lack of public interest or surprise or shock or dismay, or maybe what you want to call it, at learning that we have verifiable, video from military units, which shows something unusual. It's hard to say. People, I think people are, number one, I think that some of those videos are very, very good. But there's always somebody who say, well, it was something else. It was something natural. And the other problem is that, Luis Alonso, who was running that program and who has commented, quite extensively on these videos. He, at the end of it, he says, listen, we don't know what they are, but out of all these sightings, only one could be explained. I think it was 144 of them. Only one could be explained. But he said, we don't know if it's something that's American. We don't know if it's Chinese or Russian. We don't know. It could also be something outside of that possibility. So he left it open. Now, I've heard him talk about this, but he never wants to say it's ET. He says it could be something that's not ours or not human. And the way he phrases this, he phrases it very carefully, so he's not going to kind of get into trouble with it. I think that lack of definitiveness is the problem, really. You know, basically the conclusion was at the end of the whole thing is that we just don't know what it is. And that kind of puts it back where it was in the beginning.
That's a good answer. That's a really good way to look at it. I never really thought about that. I'm so used to just thinking in broader terms, you know, that because for me, that's
why I'm saying it's like, you know, it's that drip phenomena. You know, it's like, listen, we have some very interesting footage you guys can see, and this is what's going on. You can see it now. You can look at this, and this is verifiable video. This is, you know, a video that was produced by some pretty important people, and we're releasing this. It's the real stuff. It's not fake YouTube stuff. But we still don't know what it is. So we're back where we were again. So now we know a little bit more, and the acceptance level is a little bit higher of this kind of stuff, and the perception of the government's acceptance level of this being real is a little higher, but we still don't know. So you see, it's like they ratchet it up and they take it down a bit. So, you know, I think that's what's going on as far as if you want to look at this thing kind of psychologically or socially. I think that's the impact. The impact is more psychologically than anything else. It's just that we're being acclimated. This is my view. This is my opinion. Okay, so we're being acclimated slowly, carefully to the acceptance of this kind of thing, but without solid evidence yet. And I think that's how it's going to progress for quite some time. Maybe, you know, 20, 30, 40 years. It'll keep going like this. Slowly.
That's a long time. That's like
it might be longer than that. It might be shorter than that. We don't know, but I think that there's no doubt a slow acclimation process taking place in my view.
In the meantime, they're getting funding, and they can control the narrative, and they can, you know, sort of let this.
The claim that we don't know what this is a bold-faced lie. They know exactly what this is. But they like us to think that they don't know what this is. That's where they want it to be. But of course, they've known what this is for quite a long time. So anybody who's read the literature over the time knows the government knows quite a bit. But they like us to believe, at least for the time being, that they don't know. They know what we know, that we know what they know, which of course isn't true. But that's what they're advancing. And I think it's upsetting, it's dismaying, but that's where they're putting it. And so there is a large segment of our population who accepts this, and then there are people who are in the know don't accept this.
Darren, did you want to expand on that, or did you?
No, I mean, I'm just hoping it's in your lifetime, buddy.
I still forget. I think
your disclosure.
I think that makes so much sense. Hearing him say that now. It really makes sense that it's just going to be this slow, long thing. But I mean, I kind of thought for a while there, I thought they were going to use big D disclosure as a sort of a reason to get together as a one world government and fight off a common enemy and blah, blah, blah. But now I'm not sure. I think that you might be right in this drip for decades, you know, until it finally just becomes accepted, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from, you know, the 40s to the present time, we're talking about, how long is that? About 80 years. We haven't seen a lot of movement on this idea. We've got a lot of great footage that's coming up with people being able to film and photograph stuff. We've got better science, which we should use absolutely in researching and analyzing information. And we can come to pretty fair conclusions, I think, about a lot of this stuff if we do it independently. But as far as I think the government officially, they're not going to allow us to move forward anymore. They're not going to allow us to move forward on this because they know that socially there could be a lot of problems. So that's where they're at, and I kind of understand that. Like I said earlier, I kind of understand why they would not want us to know too much about this. So,
have you heard of? We had a fellow on named Cometan a little while back, and he's made a. Have you heard of Astronism? It's a new religion, yeah.
I've had, yeah. He is someone who does not accept the extraterrestrial hypothesis. However, you know, he tends to think we're alone in the universe.
Wait, what? So what are we worshiping here? A comet?
Stars.
Just stars?
Well, as a religion, it's just he's promoting the idea of this kind of experience of experiencing the cosmos as a religious experience,
like astrotheology type sort of thing.
Astronism. Yeah, he's advancing the idea that the true human experience, in his view, is that we experience the cosmos as this grand creation, and that in itself is a quasi-religious or religious experience, and it's not necessarily theological or theistic in that sense. It could be. He's open to people interpreting this different ways. But I think it's what's important, I think anyway, for our discussion today is that he does not acknowledge, at least right now he doesn't, the idea of other intelligences in the universe.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Did that come up in our chat with him? I don't remember.
Yeah, we didn't really. Yeah,
we just didn't get into it.
Just
really?
didn't. I mean, because I think we understood that at the time that this wasn't about ETs. It was just about the cosmos, and not about deifying some sort of race, extraterrestrial race. It was about the experience of us on Earth experiencing the cosmos.
Yeah, and he's not necessarily a theist either. I mean, he accommodates people who have theistic beliefs, but he's not necessarily a theist. And he has said before that he has attracted quite a large following of atheists into his religion that he's trying to promote. So that's kind of important to think about.
He's getting them, eh? He's getting the atheists. He's got a good conversion rate over there.
Yeah, he says he's got a lot of interest.
I mean, I think it's like a top 20 religion. And there's 30,000 different Christianities, so he's beating out like 29,000.
No, they're all lumped into one.
Oh, are they? Well, that doesn't seem very right. That don't seem right.
But, exotheology, in contrast to astronism, okay, basically what exotheology does, it examines the Christian record of claims of supernatural evidences in human history. Are they real? Are they bona fide? Are they verifiable? Okay, scientifically. Are the claims of Christianity verifiable as a phenomena? And I sometimes I see parallels between Christian claims and claims within the ufology, because sometimes people say, well, do you believe in UFOs? Do you believe in God? As if it's a matter of faith only, as if there's no evidence of anything. And I'm somebody who really thinks that if we're going to make extraordinary claims about things, whether they're religion or ufological, we should provide evidence.
Don't say it. Okay, good. Don't say extraordinary evidence.
No, I'm not going to say that. So, but we should have evidences which demonstrate that there's some veracity to what the claims are. And so, exotheology acknowledges, okay, that Christianity means something very important. There is something real about it. There's something supernatural about it. There's something beyond us that it is. And so, I'm somebody who accepts the Christian, message, okay? But the point is that even if you don't, there's something we have to explain claims and evidences of supernatural events on Earth and how they relate to the universe and what may be in the universe. Of course, what I say in the book is that the Earth cannot be the only site for supernatural evidence or supernatural activity. There must be other sites for supernatural activity. If God created a vast cosmos, it's reflective of the vastness of his being or the vastness of his mind or the vastness of his grace or his creative power. So, exotheology acknowledges that there are other sites of God's action and manifestations, and many of those are intelligences, biological and even non-biological. So it gets into how we contend with that now from a human anthropomorphic perspective. How do we contend with the idea of there being other beings, intelligent beings in the universe, and how does that impact how we understand our Christian beliefs? And what is Christianity in the future? What is religion in the future? Yeah, it's not just limited to Christianity, by the way. That happens to be my tradition, but exotheology isn't limited by Christianity. Exotheology is about everything that's out there. Earth is actually a very tiny piece of it, infinitesimal piece of it. There's a lot more going on out there than just us. So it's opening Christianity up to the possibility of other divine actions, supernatural evidences in the universe, and I think theology needs to advance into this area. And if we do, with our new space sciences and telescopes do discern or find any kind of evidence of technological civilization or any kind of evidence of biomarkers indicating life, intelligent or non-intelligent, it's going to be a big, big deal for Christianity and religions in general as institutions to explain how this works. How does this fit in with what we've had so far? And that's an area of research that this book gets into.
Where can people get the book?
It's on Amazon. You can just look under Exotheology. It should come up. Put my name, Dr. Joel Parkyn. You can find it there. I also have it on my website, exotheology.space, and you can get it discounted there, about $10 less than what's given at Amazon.
What about the next book you're working on?
There's two. There's two, actually. The one that I'm working on presently has to do with looking at ufology, actually. So this first book looks at the Christian theological tradition and the notion of ETs and how we deal with that. The second book deals with theology and ufology. So basically, in the first book, ETs are considered an academic subject, and how would that impact theology as an academic subject? This one I'm working on presently is what in the ufological literature has theological or religious veracity and importance, and how does that apply to theology? So, for example, if somebody has a contact, they claim a contact with extraterrestrials in some way, and there's claims made about religious claims, for example. They make religious claims or theological claims that transcend Earth. How do we accommodate that theologically? If it has veracity, if it's believable, if it seems something that is important for theology to think about, I want to look at that. And there's a lot of that in the ufological literature.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. So does that get into like the Varelians and the people that are going to be like the Pleiades and the Intergalactic Federation? I mean, all that stuff.
I'm not interested in Earth accommodations of earthly religious groups that try to accommodate the idea of ETs. No, that's not what this is looking at.
What if they got their message from ETs? Apparently.
Well, it's a claim. It's a big claim. So yeah. I could look at that. I could look at that, but I'm not convinced, at least right now anyway, that those claims are important enough to look at as far as the academic subject. But I have to look at it.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of those groups when you really start digging into all the.
Yeah, but it's not just groups of individuals. So individuals make claims that the ETs told them something about God or religion or about salvation, about what God's doing out there, what's happening out there. Is God active in the universe? Which I think He is. But if they're imparting information to humans, I like to know what that is, and I like to vet that carefully. Okay, according to what we think is verifiable. Put it through a vetting process to see how much of this is something we should really seriously consider for theology. Is it meaningful? Is it not meaningful?
Would that include all those contact downloads that people have that say, like, you got to look after the planet better and all those kind of things about taking care of Earth? Would that be included?
I think
was that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've read quite a bit about that kind of thing. My current view on that kind of messaging is that it's just screen stuff. It doesn't mean anything. They're usually it's a deception, basically. I think it's deceptive.
It's not in a theological way. It's not in an external to Earth theological thing.
No.
Yeah.
But the thing is, because I do think that ufological information does have some important stuff that's in it, and there are verifiable contexts, then we should seriously look at some of this information, some of these messages, and see what they mean, if they mean anything. We should try to vet them as much as possible. I think probably for the whole of it, a lot of it's garbage. But I do think there's probably a good amount of it that we should that's worth looking at carefully in a very rigorous way, and seeing what it means when we look at it from our theological tradition and see what it means for us. And so that hasn't, as far as I know, that hasn't been done before. So taking an academic look of theology and comparing that to the ufological literature for its religious theological content is what that book's going to do.
Right on. When are you going to come out with that?
It's in a couple of years. I started it probably a couple of years.
Well, let us know let us know when it does come out, and we'll have you back on again.
Sure. Yeah, I've got there's many books to go through. Roswell has a very extensive library, which I've seen. It's not really indexed very well, but it's quite large. The Vatican has the largest, actually, collection of ufological literature. So I do plan on getting access to that as well, and going through what I can go through. There's a lot of stuff to go through.
And what was the other book you're coming up with?
One for that is basically a second volume of this text that we're talking about today, and just further developing exotheology academically.
I was hoping you were going to say like a cookbook or something, just like throw us right off guard. It's a keto cookbook. Do you have any social media or anything like that where our listeners can follow you or anything like follow your work?
No, not really. I mean, I've got an Instagram page it's very, very simple. It just has the book on it just for promotional purposes. There's the website, exotheology.space, which has a book and a few other things on it, but nothing really extensive. No, I don't really do social media.
Awesome. That's good news. Yeah, stay off there as much as you can.
Instagram's okay because I've got it on good authority that there's no fake news on there. So,
he's joking.
It's safe. Yeah. It's safe over there.
It's all curated for you, so stay away. Yeah. Right on, buddy. Well, we'll link to all that stuff in the show notes. And it's been a pleasure. It was fun talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks, Joel. You really you got her hammered down. You really did. I was pretty impressed.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate you guys. So just let me know when if it's going to be recorded upon your website. You're gonna edit it and put it on somewhere.
Yeah, we'll let you know. It's probably the end of next week, I think, is when it's coming out. So
okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, I'll send you an email. We'll let you know.
If you know anybody else who'd like to do interview with me, just let me know. I'm trying to do a few of these to promote the book. So if you guys think of anybody who might be having me, I'd like to have me on.
You bet.
Just let me know.
Oh yeah, Graham can pimp you out all over for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, buddy.
Okay, Joel, you have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Ciao.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
And that was our chat with Joel Parkyn. What'd you think, buddy?
I'm glad we had it. I'm glad we had him on. It was an interesting book, and made me think. And I haven't heard him on any other shows, so it's just
not what I was expecting.
No,
no, it was good. He knows his shit. I mean, he knows his shit.
Oh,
he reminds me of like a Grant Cameron or something like that.
The amount of UFO stuff and the Christianity stuff, like,
just without skipping a beat. Well, this and this and blah, blah, blah. It's like, whoa.
Oh yeah, see, I had no idea, right? I've just read the book and most of it. I didn't read the whole book. It was a little too long for me with what we had, but I read most of it.
This is good. I like it. It's another one. I haven't heard him anyplace, so it's hopefully a fresh one for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go out and buy his book and support the work. Support the good work over at exotheology.space. Grab his book. Maybe if you're real nice, he'll sign it for you if you ask him real nicely. And big thanks to Joel for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you are one of the 1 or 2% of the folks out there that choose to support the Value for Value podcast. It is not a free show. It is a value for value show. So we put it out into the world for free in the hopes of the humans that do find it and do find some value from it, decide to throw a little value back our way. You can do just that over at groundswell.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly, make a one-time donation. Both those are fantastic, super duper. You can head over to adultbrain.ca and grab yourself a couple of audiobooks. You can head over to grimericaoutlaw.ca and check out our other podcast where we talk about other stuff other than UFOs and stuff. We talk about more conspiracy stuff and evil motherfuckers and all that kind of stuff.
Non-government. Government is an organized crime.
Government is an organized crime. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. And join the chat. Grimerica.ca/chat. Spam Graham, Graham@grimerica.com. I think that's about it. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.
Who's gonna kill this sacred cow? You were never political anyhow. Since when did you start trusting in the government? Since when was it okay to ridicule and shame your neighbor? Your opinions have become as fickle as artificial flavors. What matters most to you? What the TV host told you to do? Or a moral compass that points true north, oh true? Who's gonna kill this sacred cow? You were never religious anyhow. Since when did you kiss the ring on the hand of the Pope? Since when do we need pharmaceuticals to cope? Your soul has become, ever-loving soul has become, as brittle as communion wafers. What matters most to you? What the Holy Ghost told you to do? Or a moral compass that points true north, oh true? I'm gonna kill this sacred cow. Bureaucrats think I'm non-essential anyhow. Since when has our culture become so lowbrow? It's all touchscreens, and nobody has any know-how. Your idea of fun is taking 1,001 photos of your duck face. Matters most to you what the celebrities post told you was cool, or a moral compass that points true north, oh true. I'm gonna kill this sacred cow. I'm gonna kill your 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 sacred cow.